Hello again everyone, Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about relationships and compatibility in astrology. One of the first things, I think is paramount and essential to look at. I'm not going to start with Venus. Let's go for the basic compatibility first, which would be, I'd look at the Sun, ascendant, and Moon, interplanetary, I guess you could say, aspects between two people. If there's conjunctions involving this influences or planets, it can be very unifying and intensifying. It may not always be good, because sometimes if you have two people that have very similar characteristics, it can cause friction. A lot of it could depend on other aspects in the natal horoscope. Conjunctions from outer planets to someone's personal planet can be intensifying, like a Uranus conjuncting someone's Sun, ascendant, or Moon could indicate some kind, possibly an unorthodox or unusual attraction. If there's conjunctions, well, let me go to sextiles. Sextiles and trines are auspicious, as far as, interplanetary aspects, especially, if they're going to be involving Sun, personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, or the ascendant. They could be very, obviously providential and good and positive aspects. Somebody, let's say, has Venus at 17 degrees Cancer, for example, and the other person has Venus at 15 degrees Taurus, could be good, because Cancer, Venus in Cancer can sometimes have some kind of security issues, and they almost can be, they're nurturing but clinging possibly. And the Taurus, Venus in Taurus, can be very loyal and steadfast in love, and it could possibly diffuse the insecurity issues. So Venus aspects are very essential, of course. If obviously if you have adverse aspects that are involving the personal planets, interplanetary aspects, such as like if you have a square or inconjunct, this could be negative. Somebody that has say Mars at 20 degrees Scorpio, and the other person has, say, the Moon 23 degrees Aquarius, that square aspect can be very adverse due to the fact not only you're dealing with fixed signs. Scorpio, the energy can be somewhat controlling and possibly forceful, and you have if somebody has the Moon with that in Aquarius, that's more of a freedom-loving, independent, kind of person, and person, is more about, about expressing his or herself, and being as being an individual, and not necessarily wanting to be, wanting to be pinned down, which is similar, to kind of like Gemini, I guess you could say. So you're going to have, the energies are going to be conflicting, and obviously those, that aspect can be adversarial. Now, you can look at other things as far as aspects go in persons, just in general. Even if you don't have necessarily the aspect, opposites, can still attract, by sign. Let's take somebody, that has the ascendant at, say, let's say 8 degrees Pisces, and the potential partner is like 25 degrees Virgo. Now, even though you don't have the opposite aspect in this example, you would have, the energies would be such where they would still be opposite. Pisces is about seeing, concepts, broad pictures, where Virgo is very punctilious with details, is more detail oriented and seeing the little things in something. So they kind of can be beneficial to each other. The Pisces is, being intuitive. Virgo is more pragmatic. So the Virgo can be seeking the more insightful, intuitive qualities in Pisces, because Virgo may lack that, and Pisces may be seeking the more analytical, the detailed side of things, the pragmatic side, which is what Virgo would have in this example. Also, you could look at you could also have like an out of, let's say you have like an out of sign, you could have an out of sign sextile, as an example, as a positive aspect with planet, with signs that aren't necessarily compatible. Let's take Taurus and Gemini, for example. Now, Taurus, energy is obviously methodical, plotting, can accomplish a lot over a long period of time, where Gemini tends to act in spurts and is more about mental energy, about doing, a lot of things, maybe, multitude of things very fast, but might not necessarily have the persistence and staying power to finish a number of things. Now, if we take somebody, say, that has the sun at, like, say, 2 degrees Taurus, and somebody, we take Gemini, 29 degrees Gemini, that would make an out of sign sextile, where the aspect would be favorable and auspicious. The signs, are neutral. The signs that are like one right next to each other, I perceive that as neutral. And in that example, you could see that maybe there would be, even though the signs aren't 100% compatible, you might see the two signs maybe in that example be adaptable to each other, where maybe the Taurus person can help stabilize the Gemini and help maybe with more persistence and follow through on things, where the Gemini example, in this case the 29 degrees Gemini moon, may help the Taurus sun and Taurus native to possibly expand his or her horizons and have more versatility in general. There's some examples I think are interesting with with the celebrities. You take Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, they've had a very long sustained marriage, I believe, for over 30 years. Goldie Hawn has her ascendant 27 degrees Sagittarius. Kurt Russell is 0 degrees Cancer. Now, they're not opposite by sign, but they make an opposition, I guess you could say, out of sign aspect with each other. So it's one of those things where they still had the opposition, of opposites track theorem, I believe, falls into play here. And obviously the Sagittarius energies that Goldie Hawn is projecting can be beneficial, to the person, the Cancer ascendant person in Kurt Russell. It could possibly, in this example, Cancer being more of introverted and homebody, the Sag can be beneficial in terms of getting him maybe out, outside and being, more, sports activities, for example, being more adventurous and as far as traveling goes, while the Cancer person might encourage, in this example, the Sag-rising Goldie Hawn to be, to have, maybe a few more activities, at home as otherwise indicated. So, also you have some other examples. Jackie Kennedy had John Kennedy, I should say, John F. Kennedy had his ascendant at 20 degrees Libra. Jackie Kennedy 25 degrees Aries moon. So you had some, the opposites track, theorem can fall into play there. Also, you also had between these two people that There also were some, you look at, I guess you could say, other favorable aspects that were indicated between Jackie Kennedy and John F. Kennedy. If I remember right, their Venuses were both in Gemini and conjuncted each other. So there were, they had a number, it was favorable, auspicious, they had a sustained relationship. There may, there may have been infidelity on John F. Kennedy's part, but, for all intents and purposes, it was not. It was a fairly, good union, and it had sustenance and staying power. Another example. This is an on-screen, relationship between. Some of you may remember Moonlighting, kind of a comical detective series that starred Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd, and their ascendants made a conjunction, and I see that as, it obviously, I think it worked for them. They both had ascendants in late Virgo. Bruce Willis's son opposed Sybil Shepherd's ascendant, so you had certain compatibility there. And I think a lot of times you have celebrities that are drawn, that have certain, that can homogenize, or they can blend together. They're meant to, work together on screen and have a certain harmony and chemistry, even though it is acting. Another example as far as celebrities go are, you look at, Maria Shriver, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Maria Shriver has her moon in Leo, and it conjuncts Arnold Schwarzenegger's sun, Saturn, and Pluto. Arnold's sun sign in Leo conjuncts Maria Shriver's 4th house of home and family. Often, you could see somebody, a person that has their sun sign in your 4th house or conjunct your 4th house. It could indicate a potential for that person, having a home life with you. So there was certain chemistry there, although they are now it's now in an estranged relation. They're both, obviously, as you know, they have separated and I believe divorced, but their relationship did last for a good amount of years, which is hard when you have two people of that kind of notoriety, being even to last for as long as it had. So anyway, people, I'm just going to kind of summarize once again. I guess you could say, as far as compatibility in horoscopes, male and female, or just people that are in a romantic relationship. Obviously, one fundamental thing is the opposites, attract. Law comes into play, especially when you're involving the personal planets and ascendant, sign. I don't necessarily agree that Mercury opposing someone else's Mercury can be beneficial, because I think you could be diametrically opposed on certain viewpoints. So I don't really look at that as strong compatibility. But Venus is obviously very important. You have a lot of sextiles and trines are good with the personal interplanetary aspects. And another thing too, which I may not have mentioned, is that you can having planets from someone else's I guess you could say their planets. If you have a number of planets from a perspective, love mate in your 5th house or even 7th house of relationships, that could be good as well. The 5th house, as most of you know, governs love and romance. 7th house is relationships. If you have someone's one of their planets, especially like the sun or the moon, in your 1st house, and if it conjuncts the ascendant, even more so, could indicate some chemistry and compatibility there. So anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment for compatibility in astrology in relationships. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about and continuing my house ruler series. So anyway, people, two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel, but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis on a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person, astrologically speaking, is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.